guys, back for another countdown. We all know how psychotic, much an asshole, and more Eric Cartman actually is. But did you also know that there are some situations where he is tolerable, or even in some cases, likable? That he does something that seems like not his assholey, psychotic, crazy self? Well, here are just 10 episodes from the first to 10th season? Maybe some of season 11 too, I do not know, I do not remember. But here are just 10 situations from at least the first to 10th season of South Park that Eric Cartman is actually not the worst guy in the world. Now let's get on to number 10. Number 10 is an elephant makes love to a pig from season 1, episode 5. Now, this is more, this is an early season, so Cartman isn't as known, is he an a-hole, but he isn't as known as psychotic. But anyway, in this episode, you sort of feel bad for Cartman, because the point of this episode is the boys are trying to I think his name was Terrence. He was Dr. Mephisto's son, and they were trying to have a better experiment than him for the science project. And Kyle's idea was to have small baby elephants, because Kyle had a huge elephant and that he couldn't keep in his house, and Cartman had a pot-belly pig. And Kyle's idea was to breed Cartman's pig with his elephant, which Cartman was like, no way, you're not, I forget what his name was. Fluffy, I think, was his name. I think Cartman called him Fluffy. I could be wrong. I might put it in there if I can remember. But he said, yeah, I think it was Fluffy. He said, you're not Fluffy. You're not touching, whatever. He may have came off, mean, sounding when he was saying that, but he was just trying to be assertive. It was his pot-belly pig, and there was a legitimate danger with breeding with an elephant. For, a huge thing like that. And the thing is, sometimes, yes, Cartman doesn't like to share in that, and he comes off as an asshole, but in this situation, I honestly think he's justified, because there's a real danger to his pet, and it is disgusting as well. So, and in the end, Cartman, in the end, Kyle gets his own way. It actually happens, right? Against Cartman's wishes. So not only did he have the right to not want his small pet pig mate with a huge giant elephant, it actually happens. So for once in probably, I don't know how long, Cartman is actually sympathizable. So this is probably one of the only episodes on this list that, well, one of them. There might be, I think, one other that I think about, which might be coming soon in this list. But this is probably, as I can think of, really one of the only times in this list that not only is he tolerable and sort of likable, but sympathizable. So it gets worse as the seasons go on. So anyway, an elephant makes love to a pig is number 10 on this list. Now on to number 9. Number 9 on this list is Jack-Off Sores from season 3, episode 5, I believe. Again, I could be wrong. Pretty much this episode, it is more that Cartman there's these new species Cartman discovers, and at first South Park is thrilled to have a new species discovered, and then there's a male and a female of the species discovered, so they try to breed them to bring back the population of them. And things go south really fast when it turns out they're so annoying. Like, the males of the species are the only ones that can speak English. So in the Jack-Off, so that's what I mean, is that's what its name is, Jack-Off. I know, it's inappropriate, and that's what the joke is overly annoying, overly assertive, or overly exerted. You know, he's really social, but to the point where he's annoying, like talkative and that. And Cartman has genuinely bonded with these creatures. Like, they were his friends, right? And in the end, they have to be, like, the whole of South Park, everyone minus Cartman, is tricking them, the species, you know, I'm just going to say the species, to go and move somewhere else besides South Park. And they're trying to a point, there's a point where they have to trick Cartman into going somewhere, for he can't stop them because their first attempt fails because of Cartman. Now you're thinking, oh, isn't he not likable because of this? But the reason why he is actually likable despite this is because he genuinely cares about them. He's not doing it just to be nasty or to overpower someone. He's gets in the way because they're some of his best friends. Like, especially the first one is like his best friend, one of the only ones that understand him. To a point where Kyle, or if I forget who it was, Kyle or Stan, or maybe one of the adults say, well, he liked them so much because they're one thing that's more annoying than him, or just as annoying or as likable as him. So it was a kind of a joke that way that was brought up, but the point is he was really hurt by it. Right? It wasn't just, oh, I didn't get my own way, oh, I didn't overpower this situation. He was trying to get in the way because the family he was really close to. He was one of the only people in South Park that liked them. And it makes you sort of feel bad for him, because it's like his best friend are being forced to leave and to never see them again. And he never does see them again. I mean, obviously, it does due to effect going on, but in this episode, you could really sort of sympathize with him in a way. Like, not as much as, I don't know why I put this lower than the other, but it's just like if you really, really cared about someone, and they understood you, but everyone else around you didn't like this person, and they did everything in their right mind to get rid of that person that you care about. So, never thought I'd say it, I sort of, like, this has never happened to me, like I never been in that situation, but I gotta get the idea. And, well, as I said, like, this was another episode that sort of, like, made him look, not that he was in the right, unlike the other one, he was a little more in the right, but it's still, like, just really sad. So, Jack-Off Sewer was number 9 on this list, now on to number 8. Number 8 on this list is Cartman's Mom is a Dirty Ass from Season 1, Episode 13. Now, I'm not saying the actual S word, I'm not, so, but you guys do know what I mean, so I'm even going to put S or star in the title. I just don't want to get into a lot of trouble, so you're thinking, huh? Well, and so don't you want to include, like, the next part? Not really. Like, we'll just say he's a lot more unlikable in the second half of the resolution, but pretty much, like, Cartman is not in school, and after, like, things have been going on, and they're concerned about him, so Mr. Mackey says, well, maybe I give you permission to record, because I need to see some things to prove something is wrong, and stuff. But I think, yeah, they go, like, I know, I think they go there to see Cartman and see him in his yard, playing with a bunch of dolls and a tea set, which, that is sort of hilarious, but besides the point. Mr. Mackey tells them just to record footage to show him. That way he can be able to assess it and think of how to help. And so they record it, but do they hand it right over to Mr. Mackey? No. They think it is so hilarious that they submit it to America's Funniest Home Videos. Cartman doesn't know this yet. But anyway, what does that have to do with, you know, his mom being a dirty ass? Well, Cartman has been going through a lot. He just, I don't know if he just got to a point where he's like, well, my friend Kyle, Stan, and Kenny have a dad. Where's my dad? Yes, who's my dad? He doesn't know who his father is, and Miss Cartman isn't helping him any. Like he asks her, and she's like, oh, well, and then she goes off on saying about a night at a drunken bar and all these men were there, and so he keeps getting led in different directions. Like at one point he thought he was a Indian. Yeah, half Indian, so he goes to this guy who she says is his father, and he's, oh, no, there's a point where he thought Chef was his father. And, so he keeps being pointed in so many different directions, not knowing where his father is. Turns out Dr. Mephisto might be able to help him, but it costs $3,000. And he does not have this money. Because, but before that, he goes and he says, oh, who is my father? Right? And first he thinks Mr. Garrison is also his father because she said she slept with him. And then he says, okay, I did, which kind of contradicts his being gay, in a way, but she's like, okay, I admit it. But who hasn't slept with Leanne Cartman? But they do make a little bit of I know this is not about Cartman, but they do make a bit of a handicap joke with a guy who has no legs, but besides that, so he was the only one who just couldn't. Right? But anyway, every single one, even women, slept with her. So Cartman feels so down now because anyone in that town could be his father. I mean, everyone that night has slept, I think, with Miss Cartman to a degree, or you know what I mean. So almost anyone in that town could be his father, and he's so depressed and confused, and it's so funny how, he says, the boys literally are starting to feel a little guilty for what they did to Cartman by submitting that video. And he said, oh, well, we entered a video, maybe we'll give you the money. And then when he sees it's him, he gets really mad, but with reason. And then they end up losing. They thought they were going to get $10,000, but they ended up getting second place for $3,000, just enough, because they were originally planning to split it, but then since they only got $3,000, they just gave them the whole thing to make up for what they did. And so anyway, why am I going on like this, and why do you feel bad? Well, from some of my narration right there, you can see why I feel a little bad for him. Not only is he mixed up and confused about who his father is, the boys do something that is against his privacy. They record him in a very vulnerable state and submit it for a world to see. The only positive thing is that he gets money for it, right? He gets the money he needs for that DNA test, right? And that's the only positive thing. The thing is, he doesn't even win first place for the America's Funniest Home Videos. What happens is that Stan's grandfather records Kenny being hit by a train and killed and narrates over it. What an asshole, isn't he? Stan's grandfather. But anyway, that's what video that won. If it wasn't for that, they would have won. But so they ended using their video against Cartman, without his knowledge. In the part 2 of it, he is a bit more of an asshole because we'll just say it turns out that the power goes off, Dr. Mephisto is shot, so he's very aggressive about it. He doesn't even, he only cares about getting his answers. So yes, I can understand him wanting his answers after everything, but being as aggressive as he was being, he wasn't as sympathizable in part 2. So, Cartman's mom is a dirty ass is number 8 on this list. Now on to number 7. Number 7 on this list is The Succubus from Season 3, Episode 3. Now, Cartman isn't overwhelmingly present in this episode, but he does have a mini plot B in it. Pretty much the main plot of The Succubus is, the guys are trying to save Chef from marrying a succubus, right? Who they turn out to be right. But Cartman's plot is that he has poor eyesight, and he has to see an eye doctor, and, well, he is incredibly mean to Cartman. He calls him little piggy, and he does all these things, and he literally legitimately bullies Cartman. And now you would think, oh, but doesn't that give him just desserts? Well, I think by this point, yes, Cartman has been a bully, but he hasn't really deserved that treatment yet, even at Season 3. And he was and the thing is, it was from a person of power, right, who was supposed to, and I think he made his eyesight worse at one point, because he was going in for LASIK surgery, and it made him worse, and he literally hated going to that doctor, because he always, called him his little piggy, and even the nurses there just laughed along with the doctor. This guy, it's an eye doctor, which I don't know what they call it. He's not a weight consultant. Okay, yes, Cartman is overweight. I'm not denying that. I'm overweight. But it isn't this doctor's priority to judge the guy's weight. And I can't remember how big that doctor was either. But you know what? But you get what I mean. Poor Cartman just wants to have his eyesight restored. But he hates, as I said, the doctor's bullying. And I don't know whether his mother even really takes it seriously, right? About him saying, but Mom, he calls me little piggy, and he does this. And he's bedridden because of what happened to his eyes. Too, just so when the boys come to see him, he can't see, and they still also try to get him to follow along with everything. They drag him out of bed to go and stop the wedding, and they keep saying, come on, fat ass, and all that, but he can't see what he's doing. You can't, if he was they were looking to get him to push the tape recorder, but with his lousy eyesight or thereof, he was almost kind of blind in a way. He bullied him for something that he had trouble and he couldn't do. And in the end, he does have some severance, so I know I'm using that word, it's a weird word. He did have some good in the end, where when Kenny died, he ends up getting his eyes, a transplant. So his eyesight is restored. So that's it's a positive in the end of it, but it's still, I honestly hate that doctor as much as Cartman does, because a doctor is supposed to be, I'm trying to think of how to explain it. This doctor wasn't even, a nutritionist or a pediatrician or whatever. He was a doctor to deal with the eyesight. And even, someone in a professional profession shouldn't use that type of method to help someone. My aunt sometimes does this to me. She'll go jiggle, 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 because I am overweight. Well, she does it more of a teasing matter, but my point is, the guy's a doctor. And an adult. He should be more mature than that. And, imagine if it was his pediatrician doing that. He or she could have gotten into huge trouble for bullying like that. So, it's more that in this episode, I sympathize with Cartman, because there is a similar situation with me, and the fact that I get peed when adults do that to kids, no matter how evil they turn out to be, because he's still a kid. So, yeah. the succubus is number 7 on this list. Now on to number 6. Number 6 on this list is Follow That Egg from Season 9, Episode 10. Now, this episode does not heavily involve Cartman. Like the other episode had more of his storyline in it, and there's more of a moment in this episode that really pulls the right way. Well, depending on the situation. Now, obviously, this episode is about Mr. Garrison giving the kids an egg and partner up to be parents. Now, after a while, and Mr. Garrison is also peeved that Mr. Slave and Big Gay Al are getting married, want to get married. So he tries an experiment where he puts a couple girls and a couple boys together. So Stan and Kyle are together. I forget who the 2 girls are. BB and the other person. And Cartman is with, I forget the name of her. He's with a female. He's one of the regular ones. But the point being is that Cartman breaks the egg, being Cartman. So he goes in there and he just confesses. He puts it there, but the thing that I like about it, but the situation could change depending on his actual motive for it. But if you see it in a good way, he told them to give his partner the highest grade and fail him. And then together they could probably get a D. But don't fail my partner. It was me who broke it. So Cartman was pretty much completely taking the blame for it and telling Mr. Garrison to not fail his partner. Now, you could see it in a way of him trying to manipulate a higher grade than an F, but if some of you might want to say, oh, well, he actually is being considerate of his partner. But in the end, I think Mr. Garrison replaces the egg because he doesn't want people to find out that a mother and a father failed when the partners he was hoping to fail are succeeding. So he tries to erase what happened. Even Cartman was like, okay, what is it? What is it in it for you? Because Cartman was genuinely surprised that instead of failing him, or not only did he over-accepted the deal, he didn't accept Cartman's deal, but he did something Cartman would want more. You kind of get what I mean. He technically didn't accept the deal Cartman asked for, but as it gave him better. So, but anyway, my point being is Cartman, if you could put it in a way, put someone before him. And as I said, the motive was really unclear, because there wasn't anything before saying, there was no scene with Cartman breaking it, and no process of his mind thought. So sometimes when Cartman is doing something devious, there's a little bit of plotting going on there, and we know that, oh, well, if I do, before he acts, so it just showed it instantly, that scene. So I did not know, no one knew whether his motives were bad or greedy. So if we ignore that fact, Cartman actually did something likable, not only tolerable. He put someone before his own feelings or whatever. The only manipulative thing was, well, then altogether we could get this, right? So that was the only thing that could question his motives. If he had just said, okay, don't fail my partner, just fail me, and it ended there, then it would be guaranteed he had good motives. But I'm still accepting this because it is partially a good incentive that he literally put his partner, told him not to fail his partner because of him. So, as I said, his part in this episode was very small, but to me, it was significant enough to put on this list. Now, you guys can tell me if I am wrong on it completely, if his mindset was completely greedy or not. It's up to you and how you perceive it. I sometimes perceive things differently than a lot of other people do. But anyway, Follow That Egg is number 6 on this list. Now on to number 5. 5 is Osama bin Laden has 30 pans from Season 5, Episode 9. Now, this is a very controversial episode because it took place weeks or about a month after 9/11, but it also was welcome because they had some comedy. Because Osama bin Laden is what caused 9/11. Now, what about Cartman is good in this episode? He brings a lot of humor. Yes, he brings a lot of humor. He is the one constantly distracting Osama. I'll just say Osama, and he does a whole Bugs Bunny-esque crusade. And where Cartman is Bugs Bunny, I think. Yeah, I think he is, because Bugs Bunny's always the one that is ahead of the hunter. So, and the hunter's the one that's stupid. So he does that whole cascade, and it's really, really funny. Like, yes, some people could find it offensive, but technically the guy that he is targeting isn't a standout guy himself. As I said, he's caused a lot of pain to America. And so a situation like that to Americans and even other countries that isn't where Osama came from is welcome. Because they're making fun of the bad guy pretty much. And I think Cartman was a perfect foil in a way, because I don't know why, but Cartman is smart, right? He may come off as extremely lazy, and he is greedy, selfish now, but he is smart in his own right. And if he really wants something, he can achieve it. Despite what Mr. Mackey said in the later episodes to the PC principal about, like, Heidi Turner being an Eric Cartman only follows through with things, I think that is completely false. Because Cartman, has he remembered several episodes of Cartman, or several instances with Cartman where he completely follows through with his actions? I mean, okay, I know I'm off topic a little bit, but my point being, when I was saying how smart Cartman is, and when he wants something, he can be motivated. He can follow through with it, right? So my point being, it's a perfect matchup, perfect comic foil, right? Him knowing how to outsmart Osama and making it funny all at the same time. So technically, it probably is a situation that is tolerable or likable, but it is Cartman causing these situations. So for one moment, he actually makes people laugh with joy rather than be the one that causes the pain. So to me, that in my book, that makes him likable in this episode. And technically, he was paired up with someone who was a lot more evil at that time than he was. I don't know if this was still before that infamous episode of Scott Tenorman Must Die. Can't remember. But still, either way, it's still a likable episode with Cartman. So, Osama bin Laden has 30 pants as number 5 on this list. Now on to number 4. Number 4 on this list is Miss Teacher Bangs a Boy from Season 10, Episode 10. Well, as I said, it's a plot B part for Cartman again. Now, this one is a little iffy in a way, because he does do things that would seem his normal asshole-ish self. Like he maces people in the hallway because he's the hallway monitor. But technically, he partners with Kyle. That is always a joy, because him and Kyle are arch enemies. To a way, well, okay, yeah, well, it's hard to debate too sometimes, but it's shown they're pretty much at odds with each other. And he pretty much helps Kyle take down Ike's teacher. I forget her name. I'm gonna have to put that there. Because Ike is literally having sex with her. And he's a kindergartner. 4 years old at the time. Maybe 5, but I'm pretty sure 4. So, an older woman in her near 30s, late 20s at the youngest, is having sex with a 4-year-old child. So, I mean, technically with Kyle, she's doing something wrong in his hallway, or Kyle. Cartman, she's doing something wrong with it in his hallways, which is why he's upset. But either way, they're still stalking something. So you're probably thinking, well, why does Cartman deserve credit here? Because he's just doing something for his own gain. It still turns out good in the end, right? He still does something good, even if it's not the biggest attention. And I said, maybe this should have been higher on the list. But it's also funny how Kyle and Cartman work together in a situation for a similar goal, maybe a bit of a different motive for Cartman. But will they say this one was still an iffy one, but in the end, the outcome was good, unlike the outcome being bad. So I will accept this one as one on the list. So Miss Teacher Bangs a Boy is number 4 on this list. Now on to number 3. We are in the final 3. Number 3 on this list is Chef Goes Nanners from Season 4, Episode 7. Now, this one is actually an episode where Cartman is sort of sympathetic again, and he really does nothing wrong. Pretty much, 2 teams are brought up to fight against whether to keep the South Park flag or to change it, because it's very offensive to Chef. And Cartman is matched with Wendy, who, after a while, figures that she might have a crush on Cartman. And Cartman goes to like Wendy too. And he does really nothing wrong. He even helps her study. Which for Cartman, study is not his thing. So he does nothing in a real note that is bad in it. So he's a little bit of a minor character in this one again. But the thing that makes me feel so bad about Cartman in this one is that at first Wendy can't understand why she's feeling attracted to Cartman. And they said, well, maybe it's just this thing that is building up. You spend so much time together, maybe this is happening. And in the end, she ends up kissing Cartman, which Cartman is like, alright, that feels so much better. Then she just leaves him. Yeah, yeah, I feel better. Okay, I don't like you anymore. I don't like you after all. Bye! Okay, maybe the words may have been a little different, but it's just... I mean, huh? Really? Poor Cartman. Okay, I know, feeling sorry for Cartman with everything he did. But this is one situation where he was completely oblivious to what was going on, and him thinking Wendy actually liked him. He was being actually nice to her, too, I think. They had a lot in common. Like, I mean, I know Wendy is meant to be for Stan, what a lot of people think. And you would think, oh, if Cartman got with Wendy, wouldn't that be betraying Stan? But technically, that would have been their own doing, not just Cartman's, right? Nothing to do with Cartman. Like, if Wendy chose him, Wendy chose him. And he just, in the end of it, like, he's literally left in the dirt. I mean, come on, talk about misguiding someone. Like a big kiss that I feel better. I guess I never really had liked you after all. I mean, really? I know, like, that seems like a silly reason to put him as likable, but he's also as sympathetic. There have been a few on this list that made him look more sympathetic than anything. So, yeah, Chef Goes Nanners is number 3 on this list. Now on to number 2. Number 2 on this list is Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, the first episode of Season 1, the first episode ever. Now, this again, I know I say there are a few, or almost not very little, but this is another episode that Cartman is legitimately sympathizable. He had no fault of his own. I mean, yes, he says a few things to Kyle, being Cartman, but he literally gets abducted by aliens, gets something shoved up his ass, and then, in the end, when Ike gets kidnapped by the aliens, they use Cartman. They pretty much drag him out of his mother's house, because, like, he does want nothing to do with it, right? Because he's had enough of the BS. Because he's going for a lot, and he doesn't believe he was abducted. He's just I mean, there are some parts in that situation where he doesn't seem the most likable, but he also doesn't think something is real, and they think it's all an elaborate joke on him the whole time, because his mother said it was a dream. And then he ends up being dragged out of the house, tied to a tree, and expecting to wait and to fart into everything to get the aliens to come, because the satellite would keep, or a big satellite dish comes out of his ass. In the end, he has been dragged back up there, and in the end gets pink eye. So, Cartman, yes, he's a little bit feisty about going with them and being, like, not believing about what's going on, but that's the worst of it. Like, and it's not even really considered unlikable. Just a lot has been going on to him, and he's trying to make sense of it. And it's hard for him to. And with all that happening, like, even his mother, it's like, don't be difficult, Eric. It forces him out. Like, the worst thing, I think, is that he was being mean to his cat. Which I do not like, but out of all of it, that's just the meanest thing he did in that episode. Like, it's a time where you can feel sympathizable to Eric, because he's the one being the butt of the joke. And in a lot of pain, too. He's even took it over in control doing this dance, you know, and it's funny. Like, it's really funny. I forget what this song is called. I'd have to look it up some point. But, like, almost everything goes wrong with Eric in this episode, so Cartman gets an anal probe is number 2 on this list. Now let's go on to our number 1 choice. Number 1 is Smug Alert from Season 10 and Episode 2. Now, it took a little bit for me to decide between these last two, but what made this number 1 for me is that it showed in a sense that Cartman actually cared in a way about Kyle. Kyle and his family moved to, San Francisco, or was it San Francisco? Somewhere. Because they had these cars, and they were smug about it, and they wanted to go somewhere where everyone else was just progressive. And things were going on. It turns out they made a big smug cloud where it would destroy everyone, especially where they were living. And Cartman ended up thinking, oh, at first he doesn't seem sympathizable because he's partying because Kyle's going. But after a little while, I know his motive was more he needs someone to pick on. It is fun, but in a sense, he shows he cares about Kyle. He gets out of his way to put something on his head. And Butters helps him go all the way to that town where it's dangerous at this point to pull the family out of, even Kyle's mom, yes, out of the wreckage and bring them back to South Park. So he pretty much saves Kyle's family's lives, or family's life, or lives, or whatever he put it. I know, as I said, the motive is things weren't the same about Kyle, but that's the thing. I think in a way, as mean as he is, and inappropriate as he is, he sort of cares about Kyle in his own twisted way. And this just kind of proves it, that he literally, he could have let Kyle's family just die right there, and he would never have had to deal with them again. Or Kyle, or Kyle's mother. I mean, I think Ike and Kyle's father weren't the biggest issues to him, but he hated Kyle's mom. Or he could have just saved Kyle. But he went, the thing is, this is even better. He could have just saved Kyle, right? If that's what his life would have had no meaning. But he got the whole family out of there and back to South Park. I mean, he remained anonymous, but we all know he did. And so, the fact that he even saved Kyle's mother made him likable in this episode in my book. Because I said he always despised Kyle's mother. She was a B. You know what I mean? That song, I wish I could sing it, but I would get flagged here, right? Like, it's one of the, we'll just say that's one of the most catchiest songs in the world, and we will all love Cartman for that. Anyway, but yeah. So I honestly think that this episode has proven that he can have a good side, when he cares about someone, and that is why this overall became number 1 for me. So Smug Alert is number 1 on this list. As I've previously stated, Cartman has a lot of bad qualities to him. A lot of episodes you just want to strangle him. But overall, there have been some episodes that had proven just there that he has some likableness to him. As I said in the last entry, we all love Kyle's Momza, and that was contributed by Cartman. I mean, the Osama bin Laden episode was brilliant. So, as bad as Cartman is, he has some comedic moments and some genuinely good moments. So guys, thank you for watching this episode, and if you like this episode, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel and you like what you see, please subscribe. It would help a whole lot. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so you'll know when new videos are coming out. And I will see you guys in my next video.